Are you familiar with using OSForensics, a tool that can help you discover and extract forensic artifacts? Well, if not, well, we're talking about that coming up next.
You're watching IT Pro TV.
Welcome back to ECIH here at IT Pro TV, and well, today we're getting in one of those hands-on shows we love so very, very much, and we're talking about the tool known as simply OSForensics. This is an interesting tool. It's going to help us out a lot as we perform those digital forensics activities, and we kind of let the cat out of the bag a bit when we're talking about discovering and extracting digital forensic artifacts or pieces, elements that you might want to need. Can we start right there? What do we mean when we say a hidden digital forensic thing? What kind of things are we talking about there?
So things, the technical term,
Yes,
by the
the
way,
things.
you have to call them things.
Yes.
And Daniel's correct
I don't
in
want to
using
get too
that
crazy, right?
highly technical term. So when we think about forensic things, I'm glad you didn't say thingies. That really would have put us over the
The
edge.
doomahickeys.
The widgets that you find. So when we think about hidden forensic artifacts, data, all those are things, as Daniel's describing them. When we think about using a tool like OSForensics, what we're really considering as an IH&R team member, right? Somebody who's going to be responding to an incident and has to start by looking into what that incident really entails on one or perhaps multiple machines, because this may obviously be a solution we have to replicate across multiple endpoints as we examine the extent of the incident. We're going to start delving into the hard drive, the storage mechanisms of this particular machine, this endpoint, but not just the storage mechanisms that are static. The hard drive is certainly part of it. What about all the dynamic storage areas, the memory, the process information, the caches? A tool like OSForensics lets us look at and extract information from all of those areas, as we've been talking about across different episodes throughout the course. Remember, the order of volatility of evidence would go from incredibly dynamic all the way to the end point on the far right of that flow where things are static in typically some sort of hard drive or perhaps internal or external attached storage mechanism. So OSForensics is one of those tools that lets us look across that entire span of the order of volatility, allowing us to gather evidence and look for information that will be valuable to us as IH&R team members. Join me here, if you will. Let's take a look at how this tool actually works. I've got it set up already. The installation, very straightforward. You can download it from the OSForensics website. You get a trial version that you can use for up to, I think it's 30 days for free. You have to license it after that. Most of these tools will give you anywhere from 15 to 30 days if you want to play around with them. Definitely encourage you to take a look. Download the tool, play with it. I've been running in a Windows 10 virtual machine where we're doing a lot of our hands-on demonstrations. This tool is specific to Windows. It's not a Linux tool, but we certainly have tools that will do this in Linux as well. So I've opened the tool up, and I've gone ahead and let me just show you what we have here in our navigation area. But I've gone ahead and on the start area, I've gone in and I've created a case. A case is this idea that we use in many of these forensic tools that allows us to gather all the information that we're going to have from this particular investigation of this device. And we put a label on it, we give it a unique identifier, we assign an investigator, put some general information in. Dan and I talked about this as we talked about how we would go about actually engaging in evidence gathering, all the steps and the requirements involved. So all these tools have that ability. Notice I can create a case. I already have an active case. We'll show you that. I can import a case if I have a case maybe going on from somewhere else. Maybe Daniel's worked on a case and he's given me the file so I can import it, add to it. I can report, view logs, all sorts of stuff is there. And we have, as you can see, a pretty straightforward navigation area with all sorts of different options. The blue circle at the right, let's say a forensic imaging, implies there's something new that's gone on since I used the tool last. I want to look at perhaps some new information. And so we're going to take you on a tour here over the next several minutes, showing you different aspects of the tool. I've already imaged a Windows 10 machine. I have that hard drive image available, and I've loaded it into the tool so we can use it to then see really some of these capabilities and see and understand how we can find some of this hidden information. Things like system information, the memory information, user activity passwords. I can look for deleted files. If somebody's tried to hide activity by deleting things they've done, I can still pull that back if it's resident in the drive or in the image. So I've got all sorts of capabilities here. All right, so we've done our creation of a case. And if we go to Manage Case, what we see here as we look at our manage case area is the interface. It really becomes the central navigation point. We pivot from here to do a variety of stuff. I have all my case controls. My case is there right below the green check item. I called it ECH1, ECIH1. I've added some additional information. That's what the green check is, the current active one. And I can see information about the case here. I can edit the details. I can generate reports to export information, view and export logs. I can add a variety of items into the case. And I can see the actual case items broken out in essentially a list format. I could see attachments, I could see exported items, things like the process list from the memory viewer module, the system information. I've run a lot of these areas already and gotten this information because it could take a little bit, right, to generate some of these things. And you want to, from our perspective in the demo, we want to front load that so we're not waiting on things to happen.
Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out because I was a little confused. I wasn't sure whether or not this information was kind of a stock material that we would see, or if this was stuff that you've already gathered for us.
Stuff I've gathered.
And this is a part of the ECIH case, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And so we take, the initial step is we would take a hard drive, a forensically sound bit-by-bit copy of a hard drive or a storage device, whatever it is. In this case, it was the hard drive of a Windows 10 machine. We gather that. We used a separate tool to get that. I could easily use a variety of tools to create that image, but I went ahead, created that image using our drive image in Windows. I could do it with DD in Linux, a variety of tools. Once I get that image, I then load the image into a tool like OSForensics or another tool we'll talk about coming up in another episode, Autopsy, right? And then once I do that, I have to scan that image looking for all this information. So I've done all that, to Daniel's point. And now that I have all that information available, we can begin to kind of examine, right, and explore a little bit. And so, yeah, this list of things that we see, the case that I created, all that was done ahead of time. So what I've done now is I can go in, or what I can do, I should say, and one of the nice things I like about this tool, and I'm going to show you a really cool feature of OSForensics, I can do, using our auto triage capability here, a live acquisition on the machine I'm running this on. You can see I actually have run it already. So we talked about gathering dynamic, volatile data and a way in which we can do that. We actually did a whole episode, Daniel and I, on looking at both Linux and Windows, but using built-in commands primarily, maybe in an additional tool like Process Explorer in Windows, but primarily we focused in the command line on built-in commands that would give us the ability to gather dynamic data from the system, but then we have to record it, and it really becomes an issue of capturing that in a meaningful way. A tool like this can be run and could do live acquisition where we can go in and actually profile the system, getting all that dynamic data in real time. So it's nice that we have these capabilities built into this tool. And you'll see I get things like the process list. You'll see I was able to get 161 processes running on the Windows 10 VM in real time. The physical memory is dumped. I could see user activity. I get passwords. I get the hashes of the passwords from the archive file in Windows from the SAM registry key. And as a result of that, I actually can potentially crack those. We've got the capability to generate rainbow table attacks right from here. I've got system information, I get deleted files, I get all sorts of stuff. I scan and scrape the clipboard. I do a lot of really cool things here, right? Just doing live capture. So we like the tool because it does all sorts of stuff. Now, what I can do, just to show you where we go to Daniel's point about adding this in, if I want to add a device, such as a hard drive like I did, I can scan the current drive, the actual partition or partitions of the active drive, or I could add a physical drive or an image file, as you can see. I can even bring in information that may be on the BitLocker encrypted drive or the volume shadow copies that I have that may be backups or additional information. So the tool is very versatile. I got a lot of capabilities with a tool like this, and we like the fact that we can go in, and bring in a variety of these elements. Once I do that, and I go in and let's say delve into the system information area, I begin to see different information from the machine that will be helpful. And these are up here, all the links just to the areas that are listed down below. It's just a quick shortcut jump. But things like computer name, the OS information, date and time, ports that may be open, CPU info, memory info, et cetera, as you can see. And as I scroll down, I begin to get very detailed information. I could export this if I choose to. You'll notice I can add it and export it directly to the case. I could export it to a file. I could edit it. I can do all sorts of current stuff. And so we've got great information here about memory, any graphics, USB information. I don't have any USB drives connected. The disk volumes are profiled, the drive info, the network, the ports, motherboard, printer information. If there are printers attached, you can see I have all that here. And so I've got a lot of good information. I also have a search capability. I can search through the file looking for specific output if I want to be able to find that. I can look at the memory viewer. I actually can go in and see information running dynamically. So we can see, if we just come over here and take a look, just put the memory viewer up so you can see it. Look at all the information I have access to there. I see all the processes. I see the PIDs. You could see that's updating in real time. I'm looking at actually the live memory of the system that I'm running on in the virtual machine right now. That CPU information is updating. You see that counter changing and that total CPU time changing. This is a live memory capture of the VM in real time. I'm watching the actual information go by, and I can look at any one of these areas, right? Check that off, highlight it. You'll see I've selected an item. And then if we come down here, you'll notice I see process info. Well, that's pretty basic. But then I can go in, I can look at handles, modules, memory space, memory layout. Again, looking at this dynamically, right? I can, depending on what I'm looking at, I can see information about different aspects of this, right? I probably have to choose an individual process to actually get some information overall, right? To look at some of that. Tells me I can't pull the process or the handles information in, rather, module information right now. But you get the general idea. I can go in and I can, there we go. I can dump the physical memory if I choose to and actually save it to a file so I can get this information out as I'm extracting it and look at it. So I got a lot of flexibility here.
Sounds a lot like the tool volatility, right, for taking memory capture. So basically that functionality within a really nice GUI
built
interface.
into this, right? 'Cause it's not command line driven, which is a little bit harder to work with sometimes. Look under user activity here. I actually can see, right, all the information. Again, I could do this in a live capture, as you can see, or scan a drive. Look at all the information potentially I'm finding. Most recently used information, Windows Explorer, Media Player, any recent documents, any MS Office documents, any run entries from the Windows run, the command line where I want to run and execute stuff. I would see evidence of this, and I can go in, I can look at file details, I can begin to look at files and see what's going on. Oh, I see Notepad++ is there. I see FTK Imager is there, right? Those are interesting things. I may or may not find those to be problematic, and I can begin to delve into those files and say, hey, FTK Imager, right? Maybe I want to find out more about that file. Maybe it looks suspicious. I can view that file. I can open it. I can look at the registry information, the directory structure. I can export that information, ensure it's incorporated into my case as part of the findings I want to report on. I can also look at a timeline. If you look at that tab off to the far right there, and timeline is going to show me when that program was used and how often. You could see there, it breaks it down for me by year. I can begin to delve in and actually get a really good understanding of when that file was installed and ultimately used. So we like the fact, again, that I can see that, and I can change the view and look at a file list and basically see it the same way. And if I see something of interest here, like maybe a clipboard item that I want to go delve into a little more closely, I can grab that, and you'll see there, I can look at information. This is just a text string that I copied from some notes I have and I pasted. and you could see that information, the contents is actually listed right there. I'm actually seeing what was in the clipboard. So imagine someone's up to no good. They're doing something. They're typing in a bunch of commands or who knows what. I'm going to get evidence of that right here by just going through and examining just the user activity. I can look at passwords. This is always a favorite of Daniel's. When I look at passwords, notice that I can go in, I can find passwords and keys, I can look at Windows login passwords. I see all the users on here. I get their NT hashes. I will get passwords if there are LM or NT passwords, maybe hints as well. And I have the registry key from the SAM Hive where we find it. But the most important thing is I have those hashes, right? Because what I can do with those hashes is you'll see up here, generate rainbow tables. I can go in and I can actually then use that to decrypt and find those passwords. And I can even install certificates if necessary to aid in that if I'm able to acquire those. Again, bringing together functionality from other tools that I could use to do this. John the Ripper, PWDump, Loftcracked, Offcracked, the open source version of that. Millions, literally, of these tools, right?
What's fun is depending on the Windows version that you're using, you don't even need to crack the hash. You just send it that, and it goes, oh, the only way you would have that hash is if you're that person, obviously. Right. So come on in. It's called a pass the hash technique, and it's very helpful.
It is. It is. But to be fair, the newer versions of Windows.
Yes, they are. They have taken.
That's an older Windows 7-ish kind of thing, not happening in Windows 10. But we could do a file search, right? So I can go in for file names if I know maybe there are certain files that I have evidence of or have an inkling of may have been a problem. I could search for them specifically. I like the deleted file search option. We talked about this. You'll see here, I can see all these files that have potentially been deleted. And as a result of that, you'll notice I like the fact we have the capability to do a filter string up here. Daniel and I have talked about regex searches before, searching in general. So I have some advanced capabilities here. And let's just say hypothetically, I don't know, I'll select one of these, whatever it is, right? I can click on it to see what it is. I don't know what it is just by looking at the name, but I can bring it up, double click, and you'll notice here, it opens the file. I can use regex, as we were just talking about, to do regular expression searching through the hex, so I can look in there if I want to. I can use the file viewer, text viewer, info, information, metadata. So depending on what's involved with this file, I have different ways of extracting information. Maybe it's a piece of malware and I want to examine it. I can look at it and begin to understand what may be going on there. Again, all this is built right into the tool, and it allows me, right, there's no file format for a DLL that's going to be supported to show me anything, but as I flip around, you could see I can look at different information, understanding potentially more of what is there. I can look down here at, let me just go in here, there we go. I can go into the file system browser, and I can look through the file system of the mounted hard drive or the mounted image I'm using, and I can literally just go start looking the way I would using a Windows Explorer format if I'm more comfortable with that, looking for potential directories and all sorts of stuff that I may want to find and potentially have information about. I have a file viewer, does the same thing. It's just allowing me to look at files, as you can see. And I can go in, I can do a raw disk view. I can actually look at the disk and see the information on it. It's a little bit harder to work with it this way unless you are really looking for certain information that's buried typically in white space, slack space, looking for hidden data. Specifically, that's going to be secreted into the hard drive. But you'll notice here, I can go in and I can, by sector of the hard drive, literally down to the bit level, I can highlight information and I can begin to unravel what's there. I can use the built-in decoding capabilities to look at information in this drive if I need to. So I can highlight just an individual area and I can go in and begin, as you see, as I highlight, to work with information that may be there. I can look at disk information to see what, the sector count is, the size of the sectors, the partition information, the file system itself, in this case NTFS. A lot of basic information is going to be really valuable. And I can look at the registry. Give that a second to bring up the registry view just while we're waiting, but I can delve in right up there and I can bring in the registry, hives. And I can begin to delve in. Again, this is on a Windows machine, of course, but I can delve in and begin to see those, and you'll notice I can begin to look at the structure of any one of these, right? Maybe the SAM hive. I can open that up, and I can go directly in there. This is where the passwords would be, for instance, and I can go in, and you'll see I can go to that user area. That's where those passwords were dumped from. This is the actual registry entry or set of entries in the Hive that shows me those individual password hashes for those users. So I could delve right in here. I've got about 20 tools in one, if you think about it, built right in to this tool, allowing me access to all this information from one place.
It's a phenomenal tool, and coming from someone who's done a bit of digital forensics and had to work with some of the tried and true, like volatility, I mentioned that before, having all of this and that one-stop shopping kind of idea is extremely helpful, and it's going to be, I would assume, be much more efficient in going through the digital process of forensics. So I think this is a great tool. It was something I'm going to check out.
It is. Now I want to show you one other thing that's really cool. As you were talking, I was just getting it ready so we could just see it. So I'm going to zoom in to show you and Daniel, all of you, this other option. I went back to the Manage Case area. I clicked on Exports Generate Report. It takes a second. It pops up this little window that I just moved down. We're in the Manage Case area. And you'll see here, just bring this up so you can kind of see this. We then have the ability to start exporting out into our report, because remember, this is all good, but what are we really doing all this for as an IH&R team member? We're doing all this to be able to generate a report, tell compelling stories about what we find, and show that to senior management, stakeholders, law enforcement officials, whoever may need to see this information, system owners, right, things like that. So the report is a really critical element. Now, this tool, I'm using it in essentially the free demo version. So it limits what I can put into the report, how it shows up. When you pay for it, you get all the capabilities, everything gets exported. It limits you to like 10 or 12 items when you use it in the free version. But you'll notice I could export out here in different formats, HTML. Notice I can do no JavaScript, right? I can do printer friendly. I can do a PDF. I got all sorts of options here, right? So it's really just a matter of what I choose to do. Then I can go ahead and I can include, really important here for what we're talking about, the chain of custody report, so I can understand and document exactly how this evidence was handled. Notice all the elements I want to include, so I go grab the elements we've just been looking at, all the various things that are there, case activity log, all that kind of stuff. And then I come down here to the bottom. I could just see the output area, so it shows me where that's going to go. So I can go in, and you'll see here, I can browse, can go wherever. I can have that set up to wherever I want to go and generate that. And then I'm able to just get that up there. If I can do that, I'm going to have to hide my taskbar here. Give me 1 second. Just unlock that, and let me auto hide that. That way, I think it'll set. There we go. Yeah, I just need to do that to get to the bottom. So I can't get it to move up in the window to get to OK. All right, so let's just do that real quick. That's going to go in and generate that. It'll throw some errors saying, hey, I can't grab more than 12 items or whatever that limit is. So you don't worry about that if you're playing with the tool just to see it. But you could generate all that. You see it kind of renders. It takes a little bit of time. But ultimately, we can then go in, look at that report. And if we don't want to go section by section in the tool looking for stuff, we want to be able to generate that overall view and give that to somebody. We have the ability to do this. Again, pretty much 1 or 2 buttons just to click, certain things, and boom, we're done. And then it pops it up for us. We like that. Let's just move over here so you can see that. And I've got my forensics information and my report here. See if I can, there we go, just trying to get that to go full, there we go full screen. And I can navigate down through here. It's all linked together. Any and all of these systems, I can just click on any one of them. It'll bring this up. It's all interactive. The chain of custody form is generated for me, nicely formatted. Obviously, I'd have to fill this out as part of the activity of the case. I didn't bother to do that, but it would generate out and show me all this information all in one place, all the consumables we hand off and either present as part of an internal investigation, or in the case of having to potentially use this to submit as evidence to go to trial, I can generate these reports, generate a chain of custody form, submit it to the attorney. They'll ultimately take that, submit that to the court, and we're ready to go if we have to testify.
All right. Well, that is a great tour around the OSForensics tool. Awesome stuff. It's got a lot of capabilities, so you definitely want to get your hands dirty with that thing. So go download that, play with it, start extracting and discovering those digital artifacts that you're going to need for a true forensics, very professional type of tool. So that's going to be a great aid for you as you become the professional yourself. That being said, we are out of time for this episode, but we do have more to come in the ECIH series, so we hope to see you then. Until then, have yourself a great day.
See you soon.
Thank you for watching IT Pro TV.